This is Sioux Falls Business Leaders, who they are and why they do what they do, a Sioux Falls Connected Podcast. Today we have Jason Krause with Krause Law, and we've also got Garrett Krause joining us here. First of all, Jason, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
How long have you been practicing law?
Since 2012, so going on 7 years now.
And what different types? I know there's different, if you look in the phone book, there's a bazillion attorneys, and there's all these different sections for the different types of attorney. What type of attorney are you?
Yeah, there's 101 different types of law at a minimum, and no one ever wants to meet with an attorney. I rarely meet people on their best day. What we do in general is practice asset protection and business law to make sure that people who have built something have a way to transition it and protect it from people that shouldn't have any access to it, and to make sure that their business affairs are managed in such a way that they are able to take advantage of all of the liability protection that the South Dakota legislature gave them. So really, I'm a nerd, and I focus on estate planning and asset protection and trust administration and related litigation and anything that touches the life cycle of a business. Like, that's really what we founded the firm to do.
So the majority of your clients would be business clients then?
Yes. Business owners, their employees, and their families. That's really the core competency areas for us. It's really making sure that we can service any need that a business owner has.
And what would be the size of your practice? Is it you, or do you have other people there as well? Or?
There are currently 5 attorneys in my office, so we're small. I mean, even for South Dakota standpoint, but we're small by design. I like to think that people get a full service feel, in that they know that their matter is being handled professionally, expeditiously, and in a cost-effective manner without having a lot of extraneous overhead. So we're not flashy. We're on the south side of town in, I should say, a nice building on a golf course. I'm not in a downtown office. You're not paying for my conference room to be remodeled every 3 years. We really want to make sure that the value-added approach to the practice of law is maintained. And part of that is controlling overhead and making sure that we're not adding on superfluous staff and superfluous amenities because we can.
One of the things when you look at somebody's career and why they do what they do, if you'd have told me, 30 years ago when I was a kid that my wife and I would be doing what we're doing today, I'd be like, man, that's kind of crazy, but it sounds kind of cool. When you chose what you do to go to law school and develop your career the way you've had, give me some examples of what was a motivating factor for you to take this path.
It's a great question. I'm actually prepared for that one. When I was growing up, and in my young adulthood, I saw a lot of family farms and businesses being chopped up and sold in probate, primarily in Minnesota. And here in South Dakota, there are some just heartbreaking stories of multi-generational family businesses that were chopped up and sold because prudent planning didn't happen for whatever reason. It was too expensive. It was too cumbersome. It wasn't time because the owner was going to live forever. People don't think about the bad things that can happen. And that's really, at the end of the day, my job. We'll think of the worst possible thing that can happen to you or your business and draft prospectively and plan prospectively to avoid it. I shouldn't say avoid it, to avoid the pitfalls that come after. So making sure that businesses could be transferred within, obviously, ownership groups or within families, and that estates that were built up through years and years, decades of hard work weren't squandered for taxation reasons or for just extraneous probate fee reasons. There's a way to avoid that, and it's with proper planning. So that's why I went to law school. It was primarily for estate planning and asset protection. Mm-hmm. The business side followed just because I was a non-traditional student. I was in business before I went to law school. I knew I was going to be in business when I got out of law school. And so it just made sense.
So kind of how does the process work for somebody that, whether they own a business or they've inherited a business or whatever the word might be, how does the process work to just kind of get the relationship started with you to help them identify the needs that they have, but they might not even be aware of?
Again, that's a great question. I think that it starts with a simple conversation and making sure that people are comfortable sharing what they have for goals and fears. Because if business owners aren't honest with me, they're not being honest with themselves, right? I often tell people, and it's not to be offensive, but you can lie to your priest, your pastor, your rabbi. You can't lie to me. Because if you lie to me, I can't do my job. Well, I can't do my job.
Right,
and if I don't know, where all the proverbial bodies are buried, I can't help a business owner make sure that they're cleaned up and make sure that things are in order every day, that they fire up, whatever they work on. When they open the door in the morning, they should have the peace of mind knowing that they have a team around them to make sure that if they're not there to open the door tomorrow, it's going to go on and their employees are going to be taken care of and the business isn't going to falter because that owner or that ownership group is suddenly missing.
If there would be maybe one thing that you see people doing that's a big mistake that people don't even realize, that, man, if only people knew to do this, whether it's like having a will or having something, what would you say that big thing is you see people making the same mistakes over and over and over?
It's a typical lawyer answer. It depends. 2 answers, and I'll make them brief.
That's all right.
One, young people and young professionals think they're going to live forever, and they just do. And it's not to pick on doctors or lawyers or nurses, anyone. No one likes to think about what happens when they're gone, and they fail to plan for their future, their children's future, their business's future. And if you don't do it when you're young, you won't do it when you're old because you're not used to having that conversation. So if a young professional starts out in the world and is going to be in business or work for someone else, they still need to have some manner of estate plan. And as they age and as they develop, that estate plan has to be flexible enough to change and accept what they've built, eliminate what they've gotten rid of, and still speak to their core values and what they want to have happen. On the business side, what I see happen is people will form an entity with the best of intentions. They will say, I want to have an LLC or I want to have a corporation for a litany of the right reasons. And then 18 months to 36 months down the road, they stop observing the formalities that you need to take into consideration when you're making decisions. And they start to treat the business like a piggy bank or like a checking account. And that's just, it's not healthy for the business. And if you don't view the business as a separate and distinct entity, something that's separate from yourself as a business owner, you're never going to get that. And often business owners will lose that. They'll start out and they'll have the accountant that lecture them about going to see the attorney, or the attorney that said you need to sit down with the accountant or the financial advisor. And over time, they start to eliminate different professionals from that core group of advisors. And then they're done a disservice because they don't get all of the input that they should have. So really, business owners that are best suited for success understand that having a team around them, if to do nothing else than support them and make sure that they analyze their decisions, is very imperative. And being transparent with those advisors is very important, because otherwise, at the annual meeting every year, I'm sitting down with an accountant that I haven't talked to all year, and I have 3 of the 5 poker cards that we're playing with. The accountant has 3, and only one of ours is the same. And we're having a conversation that really is aloof, and it costs the business owner too much money for us to get caught up to speed, when if we had just been in the mix the entire year, it's a very short, sweet meeting when we talk about how great the year went and what we're going to do in the following fiscal year. So really, that's the biggest thing that I see, is that people lose sight of treating the business as something that's separate from themselves.
Are things tougher when things are good or when things are bad?
I think things are tougher when they're good. It's a lot easier to slip into we've got enough money in Q3 to make sure that Q4 is going to be fantastic. We're going to have a great Christmas party. Like, that's a feel-good moment. We stop thinking about the fact that in the first quarter of the following year, we're going to have, payroll liabilities, and we're going to have to fund, any kind of deferred compensation plans or life insurance premiums. And people lose sight of that. They clear out the checking account at the end of the year, and Jan 2, they've got to go ahead and loan money back in, which was unnecessary and silly.
It comes down to poor planning, frankly. And, kind of tell us just how the process gets started. Where can a business owner find you? And to take on a new client, walk us through that quickly.
Generally speaking, I don't carry business cards. I feel like if I meet someone and they don't remember who I am or what I do, I probably didn't do a good enough job. So the simplest thing is, utilizing Google and Facebook and word of mouth and referrals from existing professionals, right? The easiest way for anyone to deal with an attorney is to ask someone they trust who they would hire. That answer is not always going to be me, and that's okay. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. If you want to find us, it's pretty simple. You just, you could Google Krause Law Firm. It's Krause. You'll find us eventually. You phone in, you'll speak with either Nyla or Brianna or one of the attorneys that's on duty that day to go through the intake process to make sure that your questions are vetted. We are, in fact, capable of doing the work that you seek, and if we're not, I'm going to get you to the right person. I don't want you to waste your time. Business owner's time is valuable. Everyone's time is valuable. So really, it's a matter of being willing to have that conversation, being ready to ask the question, and have the answer given, right? And that takes something from the business owner that is a little bit foreign sometimes. They already have the answers because they've been in business a long time and they know what's best for them. Fair. But you had the question for a reason, right? You wanted to know what you should do next. You just have to be ready to have that conversation. Always happy to have them.
Is there a website we can go to?
Yeah, www.thekrouselawfirm.com, which is terrible. But some guy or gal is sitting on KrouseLaw.com, and I will not pay the exorbitant ransom that they demand. So
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. And I did offer one. It's one of those auction type websites, and they wanted I can't remember.
Crazy number.
Well, yeah, and I was out with our staff, and I thought we'll just give it a whirl. So I offered him 80% of what that was, and then the price jumped $3,000. So no, it's just TheKrause lawfirm.com. But generally speaking, if you type it into Facebook or Google, you're gonna get there.
Yeah. Sounds great. Well, Jason, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much for your time.
Again, Jason Krause from Krause Law, and for Garrett Gross, I'm John Small from Sunny Radio. You've been listening to Sioux Falls Business Leaders, who they are and why they do what they do, a Sioux Falls Connected podcast.